Recorded Books presents an unabridged recording of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw, by Jeff Kinney, narrated by Ramon de Ocampo.
February. Thursday. Everybody at school has been talking about the big Valentine's dance that's coming up next week. This is the first year at my school that they've actually had a dance, so everyone's all excited. Some of the guys in my class were even asking girls if they would be their dates to the dance. Me and Rowley are both bachelors at the moment, but that's not going to stop us from arriving in style. I figure if me and Rowley scrape together some money in the next few days, we could rent a limo for the night. But when I called the limo company, the guy who answered the phone called me ma'am. So that pretty much blew any chance he had of getting my business. Since the dance is next week, I realized I was going to need something to wear. I'm kind of in a pinch because I've already worn most of the clothes I got for Christmas, and I'm almost out of clean stuff to wear. I went through my dirty clothes to see if there was anything I could wear a second time. I separated my laundry into two piles, one that I could wear again, and one that would get me sent down to Nurse Powell's office for a lecture on hygiene. I found a shirt in pile number 1 that wasn't so bad, except it had a jelly stain on the left-hand side. So at the dance, I'll just need to remember to keep Holly Hills to the right of me at all times. February. Valentine's Day. I was up late last night making Valentine's cards for everyone in my class. I'm pretty sure my middle school is the only one in the state that still makes all the kids give cards to one another. Last year, I was actually looking forward to the card swap. The night before Valentine's Day, I spent a lot of time making an awesome card for this girl named Natasha who I kinda liked. It began with a picture of a heart with an arrow through it. Beloved Natasha, for you, a fire blazes in my heart, so strong that the embers alone could bring 1,000 hot tubs to a boil, so intense that it causes snowmen everywhere to despair. Let the bonfire of my love wrap you in its warmth. Only your kiss could quench the flames that so consume me. To you, I pledge my love, my desire, my life. Greg, which I signed with the drawing of a rose. I showed Mom my card to check for spelling errors, but she said what I wrote wasn't age-appropriate. She told me maybe I should just get Natasha a little box of candy or something, but I wasn't about to take romantic advice from my mother. At school, everyone went around the room and put their Valentine's cards in one another's boxes, but I delivered my card to Natasha personally. I let her read it, and then I waited to see what she made for me. Natasha dug around in her box and pulled out this cheap store-bought card that was supposed to be for her friend Chantel, who was out sick that day. Then Natasha scribbled out her friend's name and put my name on it instead. To Greg, from Natasha. I think you're far out. With a picture of an alien on it. Anyway, you can probably see why I wasn't too enthusiastic about the card exchange this year. Last night, I came up with a great idea. I knew I had to make a card for everyone in the class, but instead of being all mushy and saying things I didn't really mean, I told everyone exactly what I thought of them. Like, Dear James, you smell. The trick was, I didn't actually sign any of my cards. A few of the kids complained about the cards to our teacher, Mrs. Reiser, and then she went around the room trying to figure out who sent them. I knew Mrs. Reiser would think that whoever didn't get a card was the culprit, but I was prepared for that, because I made a card for myself, too. It said, "Dear Greg, I hate your guts." What's a boy to do? After the card exchange came the Valentine's dance. The dance was originally supposed to be at night, but I guess they couldn't get enough parents to volunteer to be chaperones, so they put the dance smack in the middle of the school day instead. The teachers started rounding everyone up and sending them down to the auditorium at around 1 o'clock. Anyone who didn't want to cough up the $2 for admission had to go down to Mr. Ray's room for study hall. But it was pretty obvious to most of us that study hall was basically the same thing as detention. The rest of us filed into the gym and sat in the bleachers. I don't know why, but all the boys sat on one side of the gym, and all the girls sat on the other. Once everyone was inside the gym, the teacher started the music. But whoever picked out the songs is seriously out of touch with what kids are listening to these days. For the first 15 minutes or so, no one moved a muscle. Then Mr. Phillips, the guidance counselor, and Nurse Powell walked to the middle of the gym and started dancing. I guess Mr. Phillips and Nurse Powell thought if they started dancing, all the kids would come down onto the floor and join them. All they really did was guarantee that everyone stayed in their seat. Finally, Mrs. Mancy, the principal, grabbed a microphone and made an announcement. She said that everyone in the bleachers was required to come down onto the floor and dance, and it would count for 20% of our phys ed grades. At that point, me and a couple of other boys tried to sneak out to go down to Mr. Ray's room, but we got caught by some teachers who were blocking the exits. Mrs. Mancy wasn't kidding about the gym grade thing either. She was walking around with Mr. Underwood, the phys ed teacher, and he was carrying his grade book with him. I'm already close to flunking phys ed, so I knew it was time to get serious. But I didn't want to look like a fool in front of the kids in my class either. So I just came up with the simplest move I could do that would technically qualify as dancing. Step to the right, pause, step to the left, pause. Unfortunately, a bunch of guys who were worried about their phys ed grades saw what I was doing, and they came over to where I was. And the next thing I knew, I was surrounded by a bunch of bozos who were stealing my moves. I wanted to get as far away from those guys as I could, so I looked around the gym for a place where I could go and dance in peace. That's when I spotted Holly Hills across the room, and I remembered why I even bothered coming down to the dance in the first place. Holly was dancing with her friends in the middle of the gym, and I started doing my step dance thing, moving slowly toward them. All the girls were lumped together in one big pack, and they were dancing like professionals, probably because they spend all their free time watching MTV. Holly was right in the middle of the group. I kind of danced around the outside of the circle for a while, trying to find an opening, but I couldn't. Finally, Holly stopped dancing and went to get a drink, and I knew it was my big chance. But just when I was about to go up to Holly and say something witty, Fregley came flying in out of nowhere. He ran up to me and went, "Boogie, boogie, boogie!" Fregley had pink frosting covering his face, so he was probably all hopped up on sugar from the cupcakes they were serving at the refreshments table. All I know for sure is that he totally ruined what should have been a great moment between me and Holly. A few minutes later, the dance was over, and I missed my chance to make a good impression on her. I walked home alone after school, because I just needed a little time by myself. After dinner, Mom told me there was a Valentine's card out in the mailbox with my name on it. When I asked her who it was from, she just said, "Someone special." I ran out to the mailbox and got the card, and I have to admit I was pretty excited. I was hoping it was from Holly, but there are at least 4 or 5 other girls in my school who I wouldn't mind getting a card from either. The card was in a big pink envelope with my name written in cursive. I ripped it open, and here's what I found. A sheet of construction paper with a piece of heart-shaped candy taped to it, and it was from Rowley. It said, "Fresh." Sometimes I just don't know about that boy.